Every day, millions wake up with minds and bodies directed to coffee. Whether walking into the kitchen to brew a pot or stopping at their favorite coffee shop, people's lives are directed by the accessibility to coffee. Although few like myself drink coffee for the love of the taste, most desire the drink for its caffeine-produced effects. As the most consumed and used drug in the world, caffeine's effects are undeniable. So what is caffeine? It's a bitter, white chemical substance which is produced as the product of nitrogen metabolism in various plants. After taking in caffeine through food or drink, it's absorbed through the small intestines. Being a fat and water-soluble substance, the caffeine dissolves into our blood and cell membranes and allows it to quickly and easily penetrate our brains. Caffeine closely resembles a naturally occurring molecule in our brain called adenosine, which is a byproduct of cellular processes such as cellular respiration. After reaching the brain, the caffeine molecule fits nearly perfectly into the brain's cell receptors for the adenosine, canceling the ability for adenosine to produce the body's feeling of tiredness. This creates the phenomena of a false sense of alertness and energy we all have experienced. By continuing to block adenosine in the brain over time, the brain's chemistry and physical characteristics can be altered. To counteract the drop in adenosine reaching their correct receptors, the brain cells have to produce more of their receptors, which builds up a tolerance for caffeine over time. The more receptors your brain has to accept adenosine, and therefore caffeine, the more caffeine will be required to block all of the new and existing receptors to produce the same stimulating effect that one receives after the first time they've drinking a cup of coffee. Where you buy your coffee affects how much caffeine you will take in. 1 fluid ounce of coffee in a Starbucks Classic Black Brew contains 20.6 milligrams per fluid ounce, which is over double that of McDonald's, which only contains 9.1 milligrams per fluid ounce. This means drinking the same amount of coffee from a different shop and chain will not produce the same awakening effect. The differences in caffeine content stem from there being 2 different species of coffee, Arabica and Robusta, and a number of varieties within these two. The Robusta coffee averages 2.2% caffeine content, and the Arabica averages 1.2%. Within the Robusta species, the Robusta variety has the most caffeine content at more than 4% in its bean, and the Robusta leaf has only 0.46%. In the Arabica species, the Catuai variety's bean has the most content at 1.34%, and the Lorena variety's bean has the least, with only 0.62% caffeine content. In general, the leaf of a coffee plant in both species has less caffeine content than its bean, but for both, in the drinkable final beverage, the actual concentration of the caffeine depends primarily on the method of brewing and the species and variety of coffee used. It is estimated that 90% of caffeine is extracted in the initial minute of brewing the drink, leaving only 10% of the initially present able to be ingested. The varying levels of caffeine in the final product are due to extraction time, temperature, grind level, and as already shown, the species and variety of coffee used. Now that we have a basic understanding of what caffeine is and where it comes from, let's focus on how caffeine affects the human body rather than just the brain. There are many negative health concerns that stem from a caffeine overload. Insomnia is a key problem due to too much intake. Due to the drug staying in the body for several hours, it has time to alter the natural circadian clock, which is responsible for sleep and awake timing, making it harder to sleep at your desired time. Too much caffeine can overstimulate the nervous system, increasing your heart rate and blood pressure, and cardiac arrest has also been linked to heavy intake. Deciding to cut back on or completely remove coffee, and therefore caffeine, from your daily routine can be a difficult task. According to the researchers at the Smithsonian, within 24 hours, withdrawal symptoms can set in and begin to take over both physical and mental aspects of the addict's life. Withdrawal starts out subtle and increases with time. The initial symptoms consist of mental fogginess, lack of alertness, fatigue, and unexplained irritation. More serious symptoms develop into muscle pains, nausea, and flu-type symptoms. In May of 2013, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders officially included caffeine withdrawal as a mental disorder. After hearing all the implications of drinking caffeine, you may be worried to continue to drink your beloved coffee, but keep drinking, because the intake of caffeine does come with many health benefits to counter the possible negatives. Caffeine can promote weight loss by suppressing appetite and stimulating methods to burn calories. Confirmed by Dr. Helen Weberly, ingesting 3 milligrams of caffeine per kilogram of body weight an hour before exercise enhances endurance capacity, and in addition to taking in carbs, replenishes muscle glycogen more quickly after exercise. Although coffee does not sober a person up quicker, caffeine intake can help reduce the risk of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and promotes a healthy colon. Drinking 1 to 5 cups of coffee daily can help reduce the risk of dementia, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's diseases. The antioxidants in coffee increase the effects of neurotransmitters pertaining to cognitive function, thus preserving and even restoring working memory. Harvard researchers have also found, after following 300,000 men and women over 30 years, that drinking even half a cup of coffee per day lowered the risk of developing a cancerous tumor in the brain's supportive tissues by 34%. This is due to caffeine inhibiting the cellular signaling of the tumors to multiply. Still need convincing to continue or even start your love of this caffeinated drink? Coffee has been identified as a favorite drink among many famous figures in history. Ludwig van Beethoven was obsessed with his coffee to the point that he would hand count 60 coffee beans to be included in his beloved cup. Benjamin Franklin held political meetings, played chess, and even lived the social life at coffeehouses in London. Frequenting one coffeehouse so often, Franklin requested that his sister send him personal mail to the address of the coffeehouse. He even sold his own coffee bean. So clearly caffeine's impact is far-reaching, across all cultures and time periods. But it's important to remember that when reaching for that next cup of coffee, whether for the love of the taste or the necessity for a boost in your day, caffeine-loaded coffee is in fact a very powerful drug. Used in moderation, coffee can be very beneficial, so use this beloved drink to your advantage.